Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good afternoon. Mr. Farus Nada, Executive Director, UN Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to address the SBTi Symposium 2023. And I believe that this event, which is organized by the UN Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei, and drawing participation from Malaysian businesses from a diverse range of sectors, is a beacon of hope and a symbol of our collective commitment towards a sustainable future. This event is not just a meeting of minds, but it is a testament to the global recognition of the Science-Based Targets Initiatives, or SBTi, as mentioned by Farus just now. This initiative is more than just a movement. Indeed, I would go so far as to say that it is a clarion call to ambitious climate action within the business sector, which echoes the urgency of our times to undertake immediate and decisive action to address climate change, an issue of paramount importance that not only presents a threat to our environment, but also to our economy, our community, and our very way of life. In short, business as usual cannot go on, pun intended. Let me assure you that the Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change Ministry, NRECC, will take the points raised and feedback given in this symposium very seriously. I look forward to hearing from the outcomes of the learned discussions once this is over. Ladies and gentlemen, we all now acknowledge that we cannot proverbially sweep the issue of climate change under the rug. The recent findings of the IPCC have painted a grim picture for the future, if, that is, we do not take immediate and decisive action. Its sixth assessment report highlights that our planet is warming at an alarming rate, with human activities being the main driver of this unprecedented change. If we look at all the historical graphs, and I'm sure there are many scientists here today, I'm just a law graduate, is that since the Industrial Revolution, everything has gone on a hockey stick graph, from a very sort of plateau development or growth, and then it went up, it shot up since 1750 or 1800s in terms of GDP growth, in terms of our consumption of natural resources, in terms of land being cleared for development, and so on and so forth, and now in terms of our impact to the atmosphere in the planet. So we can see this very clearly about what's happening to the planet today. It is a comprehensive scientific assessment of climate change. The report underscores the severity of the crisis. It reveals that human-induced global warming has led to unprecedented changes in our climate, affecting every region of the world. These changes include rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and rapidly disappearing sea ice. We can point out that it was most of the earlier industrialized countries that were responsible for this. But at the end of the day, when we go through global warming, when we go through climate change, all of us will suffer, and it is the poorest communities in the poorest countries that will suffer the most. The report further underscores that the impacts of climate change on both people and ecosystems have proven more severe than anticipated. Each fraction of a degree in warming escalates future risks exponentially. Moreover, these environmental consequences are triggering a domino effect, extending beyond ecology and spurring a myriad of socio-economic problems. Thus, when the World Economic Forum in its latest Global Risk Report 2023 predicts a global polycrisis by 2030, where there will be environmental, societal crisis driven by underlying ecological, geopolitical, and economic trends. Among others, the WEF report highlights the risk of biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse as one of the fastest deteriorating global risks over the next decade. As Malaysia is one of the 17 most mega biodiverse countries in the world, we will feel this change dramatically. It also warns of the potential of a prolonged economic downturn and debt distress on a global scale, which could exacerbate social inequalities and lead to widespread distress. We in Malaysia, we feel this climate crisis. We don't have to go far. We can go outside and we can feel how hot it is today. The recent spate of unpredictable and extreme weather patterns that we have been experiencing bears testament to that. We had the worst fall of rain, for example, in Johor, not just a few months ago, and now one of our hottest months in this very month. This perhaps should not come as a surprise. Annual temperatures in Asia have risen faster in the last 30 years than elsewhere and are now 0.86 degrees Celsius above the 1981 to 2010 average. Asia is also increasingly facing more extreme incidences such as storms, floods, and landslides, having borne the brunt of almost 40% of disasters worldwide in the past 2 decades. If the current trends is left unaltered, the Asian Development Bank, ADB, predicts that economic losses will be staggering. The livelihoods of millions of people could be at risk, thus reversing the development and progress which the region, and Malaysia as well, has witnessed in recent decades. The cost of inaction, therefore, is way too high. We must therefore act immediately to limit the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The IPCC makes it clear that the world needs to peak greenhouse gas emissions before 2025 at the very latest, nearly half greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, and reach net zero carbon dioxide emissions around mid-century, while also ensuring a just and equitable transition. Daunting though this may seem, we are not without solutions. SBTi, for one, presents a clear and strategic pathway. It equips businesses with the necessary framework to align their greenhouse gas reduction goals with the Paris Agreement, aiming to restrict global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, while ambitiously striving to limit it to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Ladies and gentlemen, what is Malaysia doing? The government recognizes the urgency of the climate crisis. In view of that, the 12th Malaysia Plan encourages the public and private sectors to adopt and integrate SDGs and ESG principles in their decision-making. This is expected to create green job opportunities, ensure resource security, reduce waste generation, pollution, GHG emissions, and dependency on natural resources. The plan further aims to put an enabling ecosystem in place to expedite the transition and promote more sharing economy models. We have also pledged in our NDC, nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement, to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by 2030. We have also announced under the 12th Malaysia Plan that the country will seek to achieve net zero emissions earliest by 2050, which is an ambitious goal for a country at our level of development. The NRECC, my ministry, is also working on developing targeted action-based national policy and regulatory framework, including and as well as, firstly, the development of long-term low-emission development strategy, LTLEDs, to provide context for long-term climate planning, development priorities, vision and future development direction, and formulating a national climate change legal framework. In addition to these efforts, we have also launched several initiatives to promote sustainable development and green growth in Malaysia. For example, we have launched the Green Technology Financing Scheme, which provides financing to companies that are developing and implementing green technologies. Also, as part of the efforts to support energy transition, and development of renewable energy, we are currently, in addition to seeking to ramp up generation capacity in a massive way, developing an electricity exchange system, including an effective wheeling charge mechanism to facilitate the export or cross-border renewable energy trading. This is a major change that has been made by this government. Ladies and gentlemen, the government recognizes that the private sector is a key player in our national agenda, including in reducing carbon emissions and developing innovative solutions to combat climate change. After all, businesses cannot continue if there is no future should we fail to protect the environment, and most companies worldwide now recognize this. It is incumbent upon businesses, therefore, to actively engage with stakeholders, surmount obstacles, and seize opportunities that expedite climate action. The achievement of decarbonization within the value chain necessitates a collaborative approach, including a diverse range of stakeholders such as suppliers, customers, and regulators. We firmly believe that technological advancements can significantly facilitate the decarbonization process across the value chain. For example, in the UK, the consumption of energy over the past 2 decades have actually gone down. Not because people are using overall, the end result is still the same, but because most of the modern equipments now are more energy efficient. That means that they consume less energy, because that is an important part of the equation and not just about having renewable energy resources. So it can be done. Furthermore, we advocate for the use of tools and frameworks that are firmly grounded in scientific principles, as this will be instrumental in ensuring that the actions we undertake yield a positive impact. In that respect, the SBTi again serves as an excellent framework, providing businesses with clear guidelines and methods to ensure that their climate actions are not only effective, but also aligned with the latest scientific consensus on climate change mitigation. This initiative charts a path forward for businesses aiming to harmonize their operations with the global objective of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The commitment to SBTi should by no means be viewed as an imposition or burden to your current business operations. Rather, I urge you to position it as a strategic move towards fostering business resilience and creating long-term value. Companies that adopt science-based targets often report benefits such as increased profitability, improved investor confidence, innovation stimulation, reduced regulatory uncertainty, and enhanced brand reputation. By doing so, they join a growing global community of over 1,000 organizations leading the zero carbon transformation, thereby demonstrating that successful business operations can coexist with the creation of a climate-friendly world. I am inspired by the momentum of corporate science-based targets, with 18 Malaysian companies having committed thus far, including 11 to the net zero standards by 2050. For example, Axiata launched its Advancing to Zero campaign, followed by a net zero carbon roadmap after committing to SBTi. Min Consult, a construction and engineering company, has set targets aligned with 1.5 degrees Celsius and committed to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, making it the first ASEAN company in the sector to make this pledge. These examples serve to demonstrate the dedication of local businesses to decarbonization and support our aspiration to achieve the nation's net zero emissions target by 2050. They must not be the last. Moving forward, I encourage even more Malaysian businesses to commit to the SBTi, thereby creating a national momentum towards combating climate change. We have so often been told that we need to change what we do as individuals to fight climate change. We should drive less, or we should migrate to certain forms of transport, or eat less meat, and so on and so forth. But actually, a lot of or the major changes can only be achieved if we have systemic changes in the country or in the world, which should be led by the government and the private sector. Because otherwise, In fact, there is a study that's been done that a lot of this campaign for private and personal actions are deflective strategies that are employed by companies or parties that refuse to accept climate change. So they want to push the buck to the individuals when it can only work if countries, governments, and corporations make that transition. Ladies and gentlemen, I will not bore you further, but the challenges that we face, specifically in relation to the climate change, to the climate, are indeed formidable, but they are not impossible. By aligning with initiatives such as the SBTi, we can turn the tide on climate change, preserve our natural resources, stimulate economic growth, and build a more resilient and equitable society. The time to act is now. Let us seize this opportunity to shape a more positive, inclusive, and stable future for us all, and most importantly, for our children and their children. In parting, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the UN Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei for organizing this symposium, and to all of you for your dedication to this crucial cause. It is an honor to be part of this important event, and I sincerely hope that the sessions throughout this symposium will foster greater awareness and understanding of the benefits of aligning with SBTi. I am optimistic that this event will galvanize more companies in Malaysia to undertake the necessary steps towards aligning with SBTi and contribute significantly to our collective efforts in combating climate change. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Nik Nazmi, for the inspiring keynote address.